You know that feeling, right? You set through a training session, you take a ton of notes, and then a week later, it's all gone. Well, in this explainer, we're going to tackle that head on. We're moving from theory to practice to figure out how to design training that actually sticks. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the problem we all face, then look at the building blocks for a real solution. After that, I'll show you the master plan that pulls it all together, and finally, we'll see how it actually works out in the real world. All right, let's dive right in. We're kicking things off with the big one. Why does so much of what we learn in training just seem to evaporate? I mean, we've all been there. You spend a whole day in a workshop, you're feeling pumped, you're full of new ideas, and then a week goes by and it's all just a blur. So what is going on? Why does so much of what we're taught just vanish? Well, this chart gives us a massive clue. Just look at the jump in these numbers. We only remember about 10% of what we read. Okay, a little better when we watch something. But the real magic, the absolute game changer, is when we're actively doing something. We hang on to a staggering 90% of what we say and do. The message here couldn't be clearer. Getting people involved is everything. So if we need to get people doing, we first have to understand the different ways people actually take in information. You can think of them as the 4 different languages of learning. First up, you've got your visual learners. For these folks, seeing is believing. A concept doesn't really land until they see it in a chart, a diagram, or some kind of visual map. Then there are the people who learn best by listening. Your auditory learners. They absolutely thrive in group discussions or when they can hear someone explain an idea out loud. For them, it's the conversation that makes it all stick. And of course, you've got the people who need to process things through words on a page. For a read-write learner, the simple act of taking notes or summarizing an article is what actually cements the knowledge in their brain. And finally, we have the kinesthetic learners. These are the folks who need to get their hands dirty. Remember that 90% retention rate we just saw for doing? Yeah, this is their crew. They learn by practicing, by doing simulations, by physically interacting with the subject. Okay, so people learn in all these different ways. And that has a huge impact on how we should be checking their understanding. And here's a little spoiler alert. It is not about waiting for some big, scary final exam. You see, great assessment isn't just one big event. It's a whole process. Think of it like this. A diagnostic check is like checking the map before you start a road trip. What do we already know? Formative checks are like glancing at the GPS along the way, making small corrections. And the summative evaluation? That's when you find out if you actually arrived at your destination. A really smart plan uses all 3. And this brings us to it, the absolute heart of incredible training design. It's not about one single trick or tool. It's about a master plan, a blueprint that connects every single piece of the puzzle. At the foundation of this blueprint is an idea called Bloom's taxonomy. But honestly, you can just think of it as a staircase of understanding. You start at the bottom with the simple stuff like remembering facts, and you work your way up step by step all the way to the highest level of learning, which is actually creating something brand new. So here it is, the most important point. For every single step on that staircase, everything has to line up perfectly. What you want the person to be able to do, that's the outcome, has to perfectly match how you teach it and how you test it. This right here, this is the secret sauce. It's all about alignment. Okay, theory is awesome, but let's make this real. We're going to see exactly how this master alignment plan works in an actual, real-world industrial training situation. Now, just look at how this works at opposite ends of that staircase. Down at level 1, the goal is simple. Identify key components. So the test logically matches that, a simple multiple-choice quiz. But way up at level 6, the goal is to design a checklist. You can't test that with a quiz. The assessment has to be a project where they actually create the checklist. See? The test perfectly mirrors the goal. And this quote just nails it. If your goal is for someone to apply what they know, let's say do an actual inspection, you don't ask them to write an essay about it. No way. You watch them do it. The assessment is a practical demonstration. That is perfect alignment in action. And really, that's the big takeaway. The most effective, most memorable training isn't about having the latest app or the flashiest tech. It's about the careful, strategic alignment of what you want people to learn, how you're going to teach it to them, and how you're going to measure if they got it. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. The next time you're building a training, or even just sitting in one, what's one thing, just one little thing that you could align just a little bit better? because that's where the real learning, the stuff that sticks, really begins.